This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
He has time.
He's
Off
got
the
him.
left side. Dobbs is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Ken in the Morning. And of course, there's Ken. I'm Ken. And there's, Beth. Good morning. Creative crew in the house. Good morning, Cash J. Good morning, Nicholas. We're all Nick and I are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after a space on X that went till, put it this way, it ended 5 hours ago. Somehow we managed to get some sleep in before coming on tonight. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning there, everybody.
Yeah, and he's going to be, Billy at the draft, never. I would have never thought Billy would get a draft. Billy never goes anywhere. He doesn't go to away games. He doesn't go to the Hall of Fame game. He doesn't go anywhere football related or even tailgate ever. No, not Billy. The defense guy, Flores, who you see on TV every time the Bears are on.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame game and that, I've actually never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
You know what? And Nicholas, I love you for that, brother. Nicholas is warrioring it out with me. We're both taking naps today. I have not been to the NFL Hall of Fame. I've been to the NHL Hall of Fame. That's a bucket list item, bro. We gotta do a show. Yeah. Maybe we should just plan something and do like a show at the. I wonder if they let us do a show at the Hall.
That would be cool as shit.
Dude,
I know I could definitely talk the old lady into going. She'd be all for it.
Hey, Billy, hook us up, man. You know people. I say it, but like with Billy knows people, man. I mean, we went to the game in Washington. We've all seen my wonderful video clip of the end zone of the Hail Mary when my heart broke and I died, cried. But anywho, we got there. I'm like, Billy, we're going to be in Washington. Do you know someone for a tailgate? Oh, yeah, no problem. Shoots me a message. 5 seconds later, I'm hooked up with the Commanders tailgating folks, and we had a time of our life. So thank you again for that, Billy. That was an awesome day. But that'd be awesome to go to the Hall of Fame, do a show there.
So what you're saying there, Orlando, is there like the Fitzgerald bust?
Like the TV commercial.
Oh, I love that fucking commercial.
What did I do to deserve this? What did I do?
You want to know what's hilarious? You love Fitzgerald, right? Is the personality?
Oh, he's funny as hell.
Oh, so don't I. My old man can't stand him. I don't get it.
I don't know. Hey, Billy's Billy's saying, come to Canton, we got you. We'll pull the first and 10 tailgating crew out. We'll all come down, have a big party, and do a podcast from the Hall of Fame. That would be pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's a new bucket list item right there. Wouldn't that be awesome? So yeah, Hall of Fame game. Who is playing the Hall of Fame game this year? They haven't announced
I don't think they've announced it yet.
No. Last year we did.
if I remember from last year, it wasn't till a couple weeks to a month after the draft.
Oh, geez. Here you go. Start already this morning. Look, Ken's already on the phone looking.
I highly doubt it, but stranger things have happened in the NFL. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I mean, I know it's snowing on the beach in Miami. But I don't think it's snowing that much on the beach in Miami. Looks like a Down syndrome Ronaldo. Oh, okay. Ronaldo. Oh, Jesus. I'm bringing the soccer references in this morning, too. If Shefty didn't report it, it didn't happen. That's
I
right.
trust Rappaport more than I do Shefty.
I wonder if those two are friends.
I kind of think that they're more friendly rivals. We'll put it like that.
Okay.
Because this could be me reading too much into it, but I'm pretty sure I've heard Rappaport taking some shots at Shefty. But again, that could be me reading into something that wasn't there and just what I was hoping.
And then there's Jay Glazer. And you know what the funny thing about Jay Glazer is? You don't hear from this guy in the off season, but during the season, he's an inside guy for Fox. Like, well, I mean, and look, he gets the good poop on game day, but like, why don't we hear from Jay Glazer in the off season?
What I wonder is if it's because he's a comedian and maybe he's doing shows in the off season.
Is he really a comedian?
I'm 90% sure he is.
Yeah, John Clayton was awesome. I was actually saddened when he passed.
Let me see. I might be confusing him with someone else, but I thought I heard something about him doing that.
I mean, our guest in 5 minutes, Joe Rogan. Oh wait, we have Timu Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
He's a comedian. But if people gotta say like they got Joe Rogan, no, we have.
Dude. If we had Joe Rogan, we would be millionaires fucking tomorrow.
We've got Timu Joe Rogan because Joe, when he gets on, he looks like Joe Rogan. But
that's it. That's how we're gonna get Rogan. We're gonna tell him we got the Timu edition of him, and he's got to come here and defend his good name.
Oh God, that trade, I love that. Steve, great trade there. Drop there. That
okay. It wasn't that he was a comedian. I had to confuse him with something else, but he used to be a former fighter.
Yeah, because he trains with a lot of these guys. That's like, I mean,
and he's a UFC host and analyst, so that could be what he's doing in the offseason of football.
That's it. Oh my goodness gracious me! What a day! Steve, that was great. Thank you, and Billy, brother, I love you, man. We're gonna make this Canton thing happen now.
Yeah. Steve, that's what's got me excited and hopeful, at least, that we might actually go and get this guy. And especially since I'm kind of hearing that he's fallen a little bit, he might be in striking range for him. Now, personally, I want to trade up to get him so we don't lose him. But if Goody sits at 23, we should have a shot at one of the top 3 receivers.
I don't want to downplay it. I'm going to downplay it. When a GM shows up to a pro day, I think we put too much stock into it. Oh, the GM is shut up. They must really want him. I mean, okay, yeah, I get that. Like that, like if Foles shows up here, Foles, he must really be interested. But sometimes it's like, I almost feel like the inverse of that really is the GM there because he doesn't trust the scout for that. Like, the guy that they have on the calendar to go that pro day, like, oh, I should have sent them there because what I'm saying? Like, I think they're interested. I mean, the GM doesn't go if they're not. But at the same time, I think, you know what I'm saying, Ken? It's like, oh, we went and saw so-and-so's pro day. Okay, well, there were 8 pro days going on that day, and he went to that one. The assistant GM went to that one. The president of football operations went to that one. The running back coach went to, the running back one. It's just kind of like division of labor, and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but with this one, I think it was slightly different because it wasn't an actual pro day. It was his personal workout that Goody went to.
Isn't that a pro day?
It was phrased differently, so I'm going to assume that it wasn't the same.
Then he's violation and tampering, right? Because the only official visits they get is a 30-30 and pro day. If they're not in the combine, those are the only 3 things they get. So going to additional workout, wouldn't that be a tampering violation?
I think because we've seen other guys do personal workouts before, and I don't remember anything getting brought up about that.
Yeah, if it's part of their official visit or whatever, but I mean, there's a guy. I mean, I know there's a guideline with the NFL. They have like you only do certain types of things, right? That's why they have the 30-30 visits and stuff like that. But look, I mean, a wide receiver in the first round. What's going on? What's going on, Green Bay? What's up?
Dorn, I'm coming for that fucking kidney like I promised last year. If we get another offensive lineman, I'm losing. No, you know what? I'm going to replace all your deer piss with Mountain Dew.
Hey, even Dorn is clowning his own fan base there, right? Like, we don't need no stinking wide receiver. I mean, yeah. Oh, Philip, you know what? Speaking of my favorite word, clickbait, this time of year, it is so bad right now for the Bears. Like this morning, granted, I was on 4 hours of sleep, but this morning when I opened up the web browser, there's 4 different clickbait stories I saw. Bears poised to land stud running back in draft. Bears poised to add high-end caliber offensive linemen in the draft in the first round. I mean, there were 4 different like clickbait articles where the Bears getting like, take your pick, a tight end, a receiver, a running back, and I mean, Bears slated to get a high-end defensive lineman at pick 10. Like, all right, clickbaiters, make up your mind. Which one is it? Because according to you guys, I'm drafting at every position under the sun in the first round. The clickbait's rampant this time of year. But I mean, can you blame them, Philip? I mean, that's how these guys make their money. It's like being on X sometimes. You got these folks now gaming the system, and how they're making their money is they go and they just every morning they go on everyone's post, GM, 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 good morning. And that night they're all going GN, GN, good night. And that's all these dudes do. They're clickbait. But they're getting their engagement, they're getting paid. I mean, that's what these writers do. I mean, if you're a writer covering Green Bay right now, you need something to get clicked on to make money, or guess what? You're going to be unemployed. So, Green Bay GM goes to visit candidate. And then tomorrow will be GM for Green Bay goes and looks at offensive linemen. Packers poised to get offensive linemen in the first round. Source, John Dorn. But I mean, that's what it is now.
Damn it, Ken, why do you got to crush my dreams?
Because like Broski, and welcome Broski to the show, that's what we do. Yeah, you got him.
Yeah.
Just send it just to YouTube though. Ken's got you. New phone. Look at Bros getting technologically advanced on us and all that. Holy crap! This sucks. Need to go on a fishing kid. Well, I mean, Nicholas, the Lions weren't horrible last year. Obviously, they won the division. They were one and done. But I know it's been almost 30 years since you had a Stanley Cup. But dude, right when you were a young lad, your hockey team was winning the Stanley Cup. Did the Tigers just go to the World Series a couple years ago or have a couple good runs? I get it though. Every city does. But the weather, yeah, you got to come to Florida, man. Phil, I'd be pissed if the Packers select wide receiver in the first round. Yeah, Michigan, yeah, and they just had a national championship for college. Thank you, Orlando. Yeah, almost forgot about that. Lions 24. Oh, look at John and Broski, both of them. I have the 3-year rule on draft, guys. I wait 3 years to call a buck. Well, they didn't dump their coaches. Their coaches got hired away by my team and the Jets, primarily. I love the comments. The Almighty made only so many big guys that could sell in the NFL. Select them early and often. Dorn is right. Ken with the beard, what number would Tyreek Hill wear in Green Bay? Can't be 10 unless he buys it from Love.
Yeah, there ain't no way in hell Love's going to sell that number. I'm pretty sure it was his father's old number when he played in like high school and that. So there ain't no way in hell he's coming off of that. If Tyreek somehow came around,
that would be a reason why Tyreek wouldn't show up. Because, I mean, this is a thing.
Oh,
It is a thing. I mean, have you seen what some guys have paid to get a number? I mean, there's some rookies out there who made more by selling their number to a veteran that got signed, or a guy or a second-year player. He's a rookie the year before. He wore a number. They go and sign some big free agent. Well, he's worn that number his whole career. Well, pay me. And they get paid more to give up the jersey number than they did to play the year previous. Like, holy crap. These guys spend the money. Yeah, you got to. I mean, the Bears, look at the NFC North. If you're in Dynasty League, there are some good players, a lot of good players in the North worth picking up for your Dynasty. Good young players. You could probably get your tight end out of the North. Well, you're going to get your tight end out of the North. There's definitely wide receivers you're going to get out of the North. At least one running back if it's Dynasty. I would say Jahmyr Gibbs is the only one that I'd take in the North Dynasty. If I'm talking 3-4 years out. Yeah, show me the money, man. You want that jersey? I don't know. I don't know if you give it to him. Ooh, look at that. Roasty with the Galaxy. That's 25 Ultra. All technologically advanced. I don't know. What would you? I mean, yeah, Tyreek would have to get his number 10, or he doesn't show up in the Green Bay.
I don't know if he would put up that much of a stink about it. I'm not gonna go there because of it. If it came down to it, I think he would change his number just so he can keep going with a high level quarterback.
Yeah, but he loves Tua. So honestly, if you ask him, he loves Tua, and he'll be like, love Tua. I like Tua. So that's what he knows. How many times will Dan Campbell cry at the podium this season? Gee. He's only in YouTube chat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's see if it actually comes through. I tried posting it in there once already.
Yeah, I didn't see it on the bottom here. It does. Did you already do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because if that doesn't work, I'm just going to post it to all.
Which YouTube are you on, dude? Okay, no, hold on. All right. So I did it that way. All right. Well, that's okay. It should be there for you, John. Broski. Oh, and let me see. The 9 times. The Lions are 8-9. So he's gonna cry every time they lose. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, the memes I can do if that happens.
There's already pictures of Dan Campbell crying. If you look at Dorn's background on some of our shows, he's got Dan Campbell sitting there like this.
Oh, I mean, there's so many memes. Now that I'm making memes again. Oh yeah, I'm not funny. The Lions are gonna have a tough. I don't want to say tough. They're going to have an adjustment that they have to go through this year. And for Lions fans, brace yourself. Because, like we said yesterday, we've said a couple times at the end of the season, new shot callers, man. You know, even if the playbooks are the same, new shot callers. Keep hitting our draft pick to be here for a while. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, maybe the new shot callers will be good, but until we see them do it, you know, they're going to have to redesign that defense just because Ben Johnson stayed in the division. And they're going to have to redesign that offense a little bit because, well, the guy who designed it stayed in the division. So you don't think the Bears defense is going to have a full notebook on the Lions offense in the Ben Johnson years? Of course they will. So, and you don't think that you know, they're going to be talking about the weaknesses of Jared Goff? Of course they will. The Lions got some work, man. Oh yeah, talent driven, but look, I think the Bears proved last year you can have all talent in the world, but it doesn't translate into wins if coaching's not up to par. And let's face it, Dan Campbell, when he did design and call, you know, plays, wasn't that good. He's a great motivator, right? I think that's Dan Campbell's strong suit. He's a uniter and motivator of a team, but dude is not necessarily the best play designer and play call. That matters a lot. But that still comes down to coaching. Orlando, I mean, look at DC's offensive line last year. Look at Chicago's offensive line. Look at the individual players and their skill level. About the same. But Washington made it to the NFC Championship game and had a much better O-line performance than the Bears did. That's coaching. A lot of that was coaching and play call. Dude, your O-line's not what it was 2 years ago. Hate to tell you. Ken, would you agree with that?
Their O-line is still damn good.
Yep.
But as we saw at the end of last year, especially in that playoff games, there is some cracks. Now, can the cracks be fixed?
And welcome to the show, Joe Rogan. Oh, Timu Joe Rogan. Good morning.
What's up, fellas?
Oh, not too much.
There you go, Dorn. Dorn for the win. The Browns have a lot of good players, and they're horrible. Coaching matters, guys. I mean, Orlando, Lions fans, I'm here to tell you, coaching matters. The Bears are a good example of it. The Browns are a good example of it. There are so many teams where you saw a ton of talent, or even the Packers are a good example of that. Look at what happened the last year of a certain head coach whose name I will not mention because Ken will probably turn bright red and pull out an axe, start yelling. He's gone. LaFleur comes to the next season. All of a sudden, you win a division. You're a playoff team. Coaching matters.
Amazing what happens when somebody's not taking naps in the break room.
Dude, that's play design. Play design gets a lot of that. The talent only gets you so far in this league. You've got to have good coaching. Join the Green Bay Pinnacle Draft. Come join me. I'll be fan of Packers here. In Green Bay, wow. That's like saying, hey, come to Chicago, go to a Cubs game and follow me and sit with me. I'm the guy wearing Cubs gear. Yeah, I think Monty rushed himself back, but he was still good. Oh, there you go. It's a party now. Yeah, I mean, look at the Raiders. Raiders are a great example too. Let's not look at last season, but the season before when they first hired AP. Dude, that team after AP took over was a completely different team. Coaching matters. Leadership matters, right? I mean, you've got leadership in Detroit. We know Campbell's a leader, but his coaching, dude, when he was calling plays, you all weren't that good. You had talent.
Yeah. But AP wasn't a very good head coach, though. Like he was a good rah guy, but he made some bad decisions in key games. Like, you know, his clock management wasn't very good. These are things that he can learn, and I do think AP can become a good head coach. I just don't think that he was a good head coach for us at that point.
When he came in and took over, he was the coach they needed.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
He could unify, and he was making the right call.
Yeah, he was even then. Like he wasn't. There was some games where, you know, but it was such a small sample size that we didn't really get to see it a lot. So it was like, okay, we're willing to forgive, you know, this mistake because we won the game. You know, like we overlooked a lot of things, but when he had that whole season, we got to see it, you know, time after time where it's like he's punting in the wrong situations. He's not taking field goals that he should take, or he's not going for fourth downs that he should go for, you know, like it affects your team. But, and also, I mean, to be honest, when he hired, God, I don't even remember that douchebag's name anymore for offensive coordinator.
Yeah, the one we fired and you hired. Well, here's the thing. Orlando goes, well, Campbell's got a good eye for coaching. For coaching assistants, I'm not worried. What's the sample size on Campbell for hiring coordinators? Is it one each? Right? No, he had more than one. He had more than one off. How many offensive coordinators did he go through before Ben Johnson? Was it 2?
I think so.
And I mean, just because your last OC and DC ended up being good and leaving, doesn't mean you're going to hit it again.
And yeah, and 1 out of 3 is only 33%. That's not a great percentage.
Well, it's a great batting average in baseball, but we're not in baseball.
Yeah, but in baseball, you get like how many at bats a season? Yeah. Like 1,000.
Was Ben Johnson really there before? He wasn't the OC though at first, right? They had a different OC. Remember, or was it that Campbell was calling the plays and eventually Campbell Johnson?
I think that might be what it is.
It might have been that. So in that case, their sample size is 1. 1.
Yeah.
Well, wait. The guy who's our coordinator did well in Denver. Well, you know, the last coach we hired from Denver was a phenomenal head coach in Denver, and yet he's the worst head coach in Bears history record-wise. John Fox.
John Fox?
Yeah. He was terrible in Chicago. And Lions
took the Panthers to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Campbell's guys have been getting poached, says Orlando, but like, okay, that happens to a lot of coaches, and this is the first time it's really happened in Detroit. I mean, Orlando, I'm not saying you're not going to have some success and that you won't have success. He was ours before he went to Denver, now back. Okay, great. That doesn't mean he's going to be successful there this time. Like, you're full of hopium, which I do like that you're full of hopium. Lions new offensive coordinator was horrible with the Jets, very bad play caller. That's from Dorn. It's great to have hopium. Learn from Bears fans. Don't indulge in the hopium den, which is a great place on X, by the way. Your sample size is 1. You know, I mean, they could all work out. You could end up with a good DC, but the OC doesn't work. Because remember, you're having to design a new playbook now because your former OC is now a head coach in the division. He's going to have to make some big changes, or you must not even show up when you play the Bears.
Now you're not only starting a whole new offense, but you're starting a whole new defense as well. Like, you know, like a scheme. I mean, you're having to put together not only a whole offensive playbook, but a whole defensive playbook. And you're expecting, I agree with you, Ken. I think Lions fans should temper their expectations, or else you might be greatly disappointed because you're having to develop a whole new offensive scheme. Yes, you still have a good team. You have good players, right? Dan Campbell's shown to be a competent head coach, but they're going to have to, both sides of the ball are going to have to learn a whole new scheme, implement it, and get good at it before it's too late in the season to have a good season. And
there's a difference between No, we're not saying you're going 500. We're just saying you're not going to win 15
Yeah,
games.
it's probably going to be a step back from what it was last year.
I think 500 is actually realistic. If I'm being honest.
In this division, with as close as this division is within the division and the schedule we have next year, I mean, look at the NFC North is going to be tight. If we're beating up on each other, I don't know if you have a 15 or a 14 win team next year in the North, right? But I mean, here's the other thing too. I think there's a difference in Detroit versus Chicago with the coaching team, because in Chicago you're wholesaling it, right? New head coach, OCDC, but it's an incoming thing when you're at the bottom. In Detroit, you're at the top, and now you're bringing in new coaches, new DC. You're going to have to install. You're installing new stuff, just like the Bears are, but there's a difference because you're at that top, right? And so if you have drop off, it's going to be noticeable. So that's why I'm saying, like, the Bears aren't going to come out and win like 18 games next year. Well, we don't play that many, but you know what I mean. They're not going to come out and just set the world on fire because Ben Johnson's the head coach and calling plays. But they're going to be a better team than they were last year, right? They're going to win. You could probably say they're around a 500 team maybe coming in on what we know right now. I mean, 12 being reasonable for the Lions, I don't think that's reasonable.
I wouldn't be surprised if the range of games in the division goes from like 7 to 12.
I mean,
honestly, I think that's the Lions' range. I think there's so many question marks, like not with the roster, but with the coaching, like and implementing new schemes. And then, like we were talking about yesterday, the psychological hangover. Like, I think 500 is like a reasonable landing point, like 9 wins.
9 to 11, I think John Dorn's range is pretty good there. 9 to 11 wins is probably more realistic. And here's the other piece. It's not the schedule we have as a division this year is harder than it was last year. So winning those out-of-division games is not going to be as easy. And welcome to the show, of course, on this brand new Galaxy phone. Broski Bear. Good morning, Broski.
Good morning, guys. I finally figured it out. It kept like linking up to my old phone, and I couldn't figure it out. But all good now.
You had to go get a high schooler to explain to him,
hey, so Broski, we're talking about the Lions' potential this coming season, and a couple of the Lions fans are kind of upset with us because I said that 500 actually seems like a reasonable projection based on their coaching changes and stuff. But we're coming up with a range somewhere between like 8 to 12 wins, right? What do you think?
I mean, here's the thing with the Lions. Like, the key thing in the NFL, obviously, like it's a quarterback-driven league. As much as I rip Goff, like overall, he's still a really good quarterback. So they have that going for them. They still have a good running back duo. My thing with the Lions, honestly, it comes down to the trenches on both sides of the ball and their cornerbacks. So, I think D-line is just a much bigger need than most people realize for them. I think they need D tackles and D ends. The D tackle, he signs a 1-year deal, the guy from the Cardinals or whatever. Reeder is on the last year of his deal. He's not getting any younger. McNeil, he's not going to be ready until mid-November. They have Davenport and Pascal at defensive end and Hutch coming back off injury. I think D-line is I think they're underestimating how much of a need it is for them to upgrade their D-line. Offensive line, I think they're getting a little, long in the tooth. I think they really need to start looking at getting some new guards in to start, some interior O-line. I could see that being a slight issue for them this year. And then cornerbacks, it's like, I wasn't a big Carlton Davis fan. I think he's a legit starter, maybe not like a legit number one. But having another Smurf in your secondary in Reed, it's he's an overall good player, but he's not a number one cornerback, and that's the thing they've truly needed. I'm not. Arnold was a rookie last year, so I'm going to cut him some slack. Assuming he's better this year. Rakestraw, I haven't seen anything out of him to make me say that he's even NFL caliber. So directly to answer your question, I'm thinking the Lions are like, I'll say 10 or 11 wins. I think they're 10. I think they're like a wild card team this year.
Thing with like Broski said, quarterback driven league, and Goff, while he's had stretches of amazing, I attribute a lot of that to his coaching he had in Detroit. Because we saw when the Bears played him, dude, we got after him, and he was not good at all.
Yeah.
Get after Goff, he smells faster than a chocolate bar in the hot Florida sun. I mean, a lot of his success was due to Ben Johnson's game planning, play calling,
and the offensive line.
That put in a good position, and that's now changing. Can the new OC, does he get Goff enough? Can he design stuff for Goff that's going to make Goff still look good?
Yeah, I agree. And my critique right now didn't touch on the coaching change. However, I mean that could be an issue. Right now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they fall off a little bit from it, but not fall out of the playoffs completely. But hey, man, you know how the NFL is. It's year to year. I mean, teams come out of nowhere who weren't sniffing the playoffs the year before, and all of a sudden they're in the playoffs or they win the division. Teams who were good the last 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden they drop off. So,
and I like Nicholas. Thank you for the comment. He says, for our audio only folks, I really needed this show this morning. You guys are great for mental health. I agree with everything you say about the Lions. I'm more of an independent sports fan. I just like that. Of course, thank you for that. The other piece of that, though, like Broski, a great example of what you just said. Washington Commanders last year. Who had them A, making the playoff, B, going to the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought they were going to have a decent year at somewhere around 500.
If
And then who had them kicking the shit out of the 15-1 Lions, or 15-2 Lions, But see, Broski, one thing that I noticed that you didn't mention when you were breaking down the Lions, and maybe it's because you don't think of it as a factor, but I think that there's going to be a bit of a psychological hangover from going 15-2 and then being one and done in the playoffs. It takes a lot of work to get to 15-2. It took a lot of resilience for them to fight back week after week and pull off those wins, and then it's all for nothing. That takes a toll on you.
And then
I mean, Joe, that's a great point.
And then it gets even worse, Broski, right? You take what Joseph just said, and then within 36 hours of exiting the playoff, your offensive coordinator hero goes, "Hey, Chicago, you're right where me and my family wanted to be." And then 3 or 4 days later, your defensive coordinator is like, "Hey, New York, we're so happy to be here," and out of Detroit. I mean, that just compounds it. I mean, you think,
it does.
It
could. I mean, Joe, Ken, you guys both make great points, and they're valid points. My thing was, I was looking more at hey, let's look at their playoff game last year. Let's look how they lost. I mean, they couldn't stop the Commanders' offense. They also turned the ball over. They had issues of their own on offense. The Lions. So I'm kind of going to give them the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. It is a lot of stress on the coaching staff. It's a lot of stress on the players and the fan base, because not only were all the fans, going around Super Bowl or bust, the whole team last year was going Super Bowl or bust, and they busted, So yeah, there is definitely a psychological effect. And if that happens, and that really the new coaching staff is noticeably not as good, if that hangover happens, then yeah, they're gonna honestly knock down another 2 games, and that would leave them at 8-9 wins and probably out of the playoffs.
And Orlando, just so to be fair, I'm gonna look at my own team and the excitement there, because not only do we have Ben Johnson, we got Allen as the DC. I mean, Bieniemy is our running back coach, for crying out loud. They brought in a lot of great football acumen, a lot of good minds. It doesn't. Yeah, we both giggled. Philip, at your three fixes comment. But for the Bears, they brought in all this coaching talent, and here I am talking about coaching matters. Dude, it doesn't mean that it's going to work in Chicago. It doesn't mean that. John Fox was a phenomenal head coach. He was a guy who would fix a team and take them to a Super Bowl, and he got to Chicago and was horrendous. Ben Johnson might not be the savior in Chicago. Dennis Allen's defense might not work with this Bears team. The enemy may be just a bum-ass coach at every level. I mean, there are the coaching staff of Chicago assembled looks great on paper, but let's see how it translates to the field. And so with the Lions, when we're talking about them, hey, great, you promoted your OC from within, right? You have some guys that you did well in other places, but you can't say A, that there's going to be no possibility of a drop-off, and B, that you can't say, oh, well, it's going to work because Dan Campbell is so good at picking coaches. The sample size on him is tiny. It's not like he's been doing it for 15 years and has a massively long track record. He's been doing it for what, 4, 5 years? The track record is small with the amount of people he's had come through. This is the first time you really had a massive poaching of your coaching staff, which is a testament to what you've done, right? But that's what you did. That's in the past. What are these new guys going to do? If these new guys come out and rock out, now you're starting to build that rep for Dan Campbell and whatnot. But that rep's not there yet. It's like with LaFleur, right? Like LaFleur has a decent rep, but none of his coordinators, he isn't known for building great coordinators or picking great coordinators offensively or defensively until last year. They finally got a defensive coordinator that was like, wow. And the reason they got him was because he's like, I'm done with this NIL in college. I'm jumped into pros. And they hit a home run because it was it was a great pickup by then. But because offensively, LaFleur does it. But it's like a Packers fan come out and say, well, look at all the great OCs that the Packers have had under LaFleur. What great OCs they've had under LaFleur?
I'm just going to go out there and say Denver liked our old OC so much they made him a head coach. Now, granted, he sucked as a head coach, but Nathaniel Hackett was a hell of an OC for us.
But did he come from the LaFleur tree, though? I mean, in that way, I mean, look, and his track record is not great. You had one guy become a head coach, and he flopped terribly, one and done. DC, the Packers couldn't hire a good DC, and what they got last year, they hit a home run on him. And the only reason they got the cat they got was because he left college football because he just said, well, if they're going to do all the NIL, I might as well go to the pro. Because he was not on anyone's radar, and all of a sudden, he leaves the head coaching job in college, and he's the defensive coordinator for the Packers, and people are like, whoa, how'd that happen? It wasn't because he was a great recruiting tool by the Packers who pulled him away. He left the college game because he was fed up with the college game, and the Packers, to their credit, benefited greatly by being able to jump on it, being acutely aware. I was
going to say, I've never heard his reason for leaving being about the NIL.
Yeah, it was the NIL and the college game, because there was an interview I saw with him. He was like, he had no plans to leave him. He's like, the way the college game had changed, he was disheartened, and so he went to the NFL, and because he could have been a head coach. But he went at DC, and he did a phenomenal job for Green Bay. So kudos to Green Bay for that. But it's not like I'm going to run out there and say, oh, well, Matt LaFleur has a great track record of hiring coordinators. This sample size is still way too small. Just like Dan Campbell, like Ben Johnson now is 0. There are very few guys in this league that are head coaches you can point to and say they've got a great track record of hiring coordinators. And even some of those guys have hired some absolute stinkers who were great coordinators for him, and then went to be a head coach and was horrendous. Josh McDaniels.
Hey, that still means that they hired great coordinators. The guy might not have been a great head coach, but as a coordinator, they were great. That's like Stanovich, our offensive coordinator now. He was starting to get some looks here because he was the one that was calling all of the run plays for the offense.
So, I mean, all I'm saying, Orlando, I think what we're all kind of saying to Lions fans is, hey, opium is a great drug, but you might want to back off it a little bit, because don't come in there thinking, look, here's some things the Lions can say, so I can say some nice things about the Lions. Yes, you're still kings of the North. Until beaten, until dethroned, you can say that. Yes, you've had 2 marvelous seasons. And Dan Campbell's quote is kind of is a little prophetic now after that NFC Championship game loss. You've still got an immense amount of talent on that roster. You're still a good football team. It's yet to be seen now with the new coaching changes how good of a football team that's actually going to be.
See, I think the Bears are kind of, although it's a different situation. So the Bears last year, they were very high on Hopium too, right? With Caleb and with they thought they had addressed their offensive line. They got 3 great receivers. They're like, man, the sky's the limit, and things didn't start to come together. Well, they started 4-2, and then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off, right? So I wonder about their psychological mind state this year, because again, now you got Ben Johnson. I think the Hopium is back. You've addressed the offensive line again, as far as right? You believe that and there may be still some more moves to come. But where I'm going with this is the Bears are expected to be a better team this year, right?
Yeah.
But what if things don't start out so good? That's the thing I wonder for them is do they have the mental fortitude to stick with it and because they you were saying yesterday, Ken, they were competitive in all their games last year, right?
Yeah.
Can they do that again? Because it takes a toll on you when you're competitive in every game, but you lose game after game after game. That 10-game losing streak, and I'm not saying it was the players. I get that coaching was a huge problem, but if Ben Johnson, I guess what I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If Ben Johnson isn't able to get them off to a fast start, how does that affect them?
Well, I think it's more tempered because of where they came from last year. I think when you're doing an organizational change like the Bears are doing right now, the player piece, the hopium's high, because, oh my God, we got all these great guys, the O-line fixed. Now Broski and I are talking about, we should take a tight end at 10. And that conversation changed. Personnel-wise, there's a little added hopium there. But last year's situation was, the Bears were a team on the rise because Flus made this defense great. They won 7 games. They're on the rise, and all we needed was a quarterback. And so, we got the quarterback now. We have a top 10 defense. The sky's the limit. The difference with this year is we've addressed the line, so we know we're going to be better, but we got a whole new coaching staff. So I think that adding the new coaching staff, because of where we are, it's more tempered. So if they start out a little bit slow, fans are more like, okay, we wanted to be fast out the gate, but we get it. It's a new coaching staff, new scheme's going to take time. They're not expecting it out the gate like we did last year. Now, the Bears start out 4-2 and then go through a 3-game mini skid. Oh, yeah, there's going to be freaking out people in Chicago. Oh, great, here we go again, 10 games. I think there's a little bit of that, but the situation is different. And I think Broski might agree with that and have actually another track on that, too.
Yeah, and I was going to just add, there's a lot of roster turnover for the Bears. So there's a lot of new players on the team who are going to be in prominent roles who weren't a part of that last year. So it doesn't really apply to them. And then I think it's just going to be kind of rejuvenating for the players who were on the team last year who are back on the team again this year. So, from that perspective, I think it should be kind of there's enough new guys coming in where they're going to be motivated because it's a new place for them, and then hopefully some of these guys from last year just feel rejuvenated. So I think those are going to be 2 keys to it. As far as if they hit a losing streak, I mean, hey, that's going to be Ben Johnson's first big test as a head coach. And to me, more than anything, this season is going to rely on is Ben Johnson a legit head coach or not? He's going to have his growing pains too. It's a new role for him.
And let me add one.
That's kind of where I'm going with it is so Caleb last year had an up and down year, right? He had some positives, but he finished in the lower portion in a lot of quarterback stats. So this year, what if he doesn't come out firing under Ben Johnson? But I want to preface this by saying that I do actually think that Ben Johnson is going to be really good for Caleb Williams. I think that he's going to help him to become a really good player. But
Again,
what if you don't see those results right away? Is what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think like what Broski said when I said it earlier kind of tempers that hopium a little bit. But here's the other thing, too. The difference between Chicago and Detroit in the situation is the way the year ended. Chicago ended on a high, beating Green Bay in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
They ended it on a massive high note for the players who are still here, right? It was like, okay, now we're going to get things going. Detroit, one and done after winning 15 games and dominating the NFC and losing to a Commanders team that no one even thought would make the playoffs at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot more demoralizing than the way the Bears ended their season. When the Bears ended their season by beating Green Bay and then fired the coaching staff, people were still it's a win-win. Not only did we beat Green Bay, now we're going to get new coaches that are actually going to be worth something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
like,
and plus, like
the best opportunity we had in our lifetime, maybe, and now we've lost all the coaches that got us.
Yeah, and I think Caleb clearly improved as the season went along. Like, he really struggled his first couple games, and he looked like a different quarterback, towards the end of the season. So that's huge.
After a coaching change.
Also, like, stat-wise for Caleb, like, there might be some, like, certain stats, like, yards per completion or something where he didn't finish that great in. But overall, like, I don't think he was really, like, a bottom feeder stat-wise for starting quarterbacks. I mean, there were a lot of quarterbacks in the league last year, starting quarterbacks that were just, like, terrible. And, I'd have to go back through it and kind of analyze it more, but just off the top of my head, like, his TD to interception ratio was good. Like, he didn't throw for 4,000 yards, but he threw for a decent amount of yards, especially compared to a number of other starting quarterbacks. But, that being said, he's nowhere near where he needs to be. Like, he has to improve a lot as well.
So the other day on Frozen Tundra, they were actually breaking this down. And Dorn had the stats, and he went through, like, I think it was probably like 10 different stats.
Yeah, I went through it with him too on a different show.
So it was like 8 out of the 10 stats. Now, granted, maybe Dorn cherry picked the stats that for a narrative.
Well, a Packers show about Bears players that didn't cherry pick the stats.
This was something he brought up from an outside source that did all this compiling.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest take from Dorn's stats, and I think Packer fan Ken was on that show when I was on it too, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, it really what they did, it was like 5 different ways to say, like, Caleb struggled throwing the ball downfield, which he did. Like, he struggled completing passes downfield. There's no denying that. That being said, he also went like 320 some pass attempts without an INT, which is like a rookie. A good TD to interception ratio. He only had, he didn't turn the ball over a lot, and like, he's a rookie. Like, most Hall of Fame quarterbacks' rookie stats were just garbage. So, I'm not denying, like, Dorn's stats, although some of them are pretty subjective. But, yeah, I mean, Caleb has a lot of room for improvement. But I don't know. I think it kind of, like I said, it was like 5 different ways to say, like, oh, he struggled completing passes downfield.
And Broski, let's circle back to what started this whole discussion off about coaching. What impact did the coaching and the play scheme and everything else have on that thing? Because we also saw him deliver some just gorgeous long balls and gorgeous passes down the field when some of them were stuff that he created that weren't play calls that he created. We know there's an ability.
His off-schedule ones, those numbers were great on what Dorn brought up. It was playing in the confines of the offense that he struggled with.
Right. So once again, you come to coaching on that. So how much of that gets fixed with the new coaching? And that's what I'm saying. Where we started the show off this morning, coaching matters. The scheme that coach comes up, the play calls that they call, the whole thing, that all matters. You can have a ton of great talent, but if your playbook is trash, I don't care how good the talent can only take you so far, can only overcome it so much. And then you're going to be, and even like the Bears, who were super competitive in a lot of games, why were they competitive and didn't win? because the coaching, the bad coaching, the bad play calling eventually cost you. And you'll win some games in spite of it, but you'll lose a lot more games because of it.
Yeah, and also like Caleb does have the arm. It's not like he doesn't have the arm to push the ball downfield. It's not like he's Bryce Young and he has to put all of his body weight into every single throw. You know what I mean? And he could still only he could still only throw the ball 30 yards. He's got a live arm. So the potential is there. Hopefully he can get coached up. Hopefully the entire team can get coached up, and hopefully with all these new players, everyone gels quickly.
Well, that's what I was saying. I like to play devil's advocate. Like, I actually think the Bears are due for an improvement, and I think Ben Johnson. I said that I think Ben Johnson will do well for Caleb, and he'll help Caleb to get closer to achieving his full potential. I just look at it like I don't expect the Bears to start off hot because you're starting a new offensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new head coach. That's new systems. And then, it's like, I don't expect Caleb I don't think one training camp with Ben Johnson is going to turn him into a superstar is what I'm saying. Like, I think it's going to take some time.
And Dorn going the other way, like, dude, after one season, you can't call any player after one season a bust.
No, look at Bryce Young. All of a sudden last year, Bryce Young started to look like he could actually play. So,
I mean, I give these guys 3 years before I make judgment. That's kind of the old rule of thumb, and I think that's one. Caleb, to say that Caleb has no excuses this year is also a misnomer, because what if Ben Johnson was terrible with Chicago? I mean, once again, coaching matters, and the player does matter too. I'm not trying to absolve them in advance, but the coaching matters. I mean, like I said, look at Goff. Goff was pretty much and good coaches in LA. He couldn't get it done in LA. Came to the Lions. It took a minute, but they figured out with the coaching staff and everything how to utilize him properly. And then he took off, and now he got a contract. He's, Lions fans, oh my God, he's the Messiah. Whatever you want to say, coaching matters and how it's applied matters. And it's going to take time for Ben Johnson and Caleb. Now, the plus side, the thing that helps them is Ben Johnson got to watch Caleb in the division and at least is more familiar with him than, say, a head coach coming in from, let's say, I don't know, Cleveland, who saw Caleb play live a grand total of 0 times last year, maybe, right? So you do have that, but that's a small advantage. It's not a great one because it was only 1 year, and it was only 2 years.
A good first step for the Bears, like, would be to win 10 games. So, like, honestly, what my prediction was for them before last season, it's going to be the same prediction this season. 8 to 10 wins to me is realistic for them. If they can get to 10, that's really great. But like, even if they hit 8 or 9, I mean, that's still an improvement what they've been, the last handful of years. So they'd be going in the right direction then.
And on that horrible Broski take, because it's always the horrible take. And today's winner is Broski. We want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you to the creative crew and Orlando and everyone else for the comments. Yoli. Don't forget, you can catch us now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as Hulu, or not Hulu, geez. Roku, there we go, the right U. Fire TV, Facebook, YouTube, and all the other streamers. Thank you guys all for being here. We'll see you again tomorrow morning on another Ken and Ken, and we'll hope to have another great discussion for you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.